Looks good.
All right. So this is our quarter ending in September. And let me make it bigger so we can all read it. So our cash balance as of September 30th was $25,256,000. That is more than $5.4 million from that same period in 2021. And we continue to have a healthy ending cash balance in current expense. Our reserve and contingency policy shows the 15 to 25% range. With our cash as of 9/30, we have a difference of 15 million more than what is required under our contingency policy. We have the extra 1 million out there, so technically we have 14.6 million over what we have in our contingency policy. Let's page down. So under cash and investments, we had cash and investments totaling 243,117,000 at the end of September. The portfolio is broken down by the types of investments that we have and where they are. It shows the market value as of 9/30/22. And because of the large increase in rate hikes, if we were to sell our portfolio currently, we would have a loss of $705,000. That's an unrealized loss, as we intend to keep these investments to maturity. We continue to add investments at higher interest rates, but it will take some time for the portfolio to catch up. Our benchmark for a 90-day T-bill, according to our investment policy, is at 3.29%. You can see that those investments we have in the LGIP or the state pool as of September 20th, we're averaging 2.56%. And those investments that we have out in the market under agency and treasuries are less than 1% at 8.86%. Just a history of where rates have been over the years under the LGIP. And then you can see here under 2022 for the Federal Reserves, we started out at almost zero in January. And at the end of September, they were at 3.25. We did not realize that there would be such rate hikes in 2022. So when we budgeted for our investment interest for this year, we budgeted conservatively and we've beat that. We are $62,000 ahead of what we had budgeted at $312,000 in interest earnings. And then our costs for banking and so forth is minimal, still at $2,403. County recaps. This is as of May of 2021, and I apologize, I don't have an update on this. But our current outstanding debt, this is what our capacity was, the 203 million, but our current outstanding debt is 20,298,000. Any questions?
Not for me.
There are all kinds of attachments and reports associated with all those numbers I just gave you in your packet. So if you have any questions, let me know. But everything should be there for your information. Is Loretta on the line?
Good morning. I
Good
am.
morning, Loretta.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
I had, plugged in some information that you had sent me, but if you would please update us under our old business on some project funding, that would be awesome.
You bet. And I've got Richard is also on board here when we get to the Bellfire wastewater system update. In terms of the Skokomish, you may recall that we executed an agreement, a partnership agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers. And when we get to the construction phase, at that time, once they award a contract, the Army Corps of Engineers will request payment for the county's share of construction costs. And it's a one-time lump sum. And then once we send that payment, we will process a request for reimbursement through a grant that the Mason Conservation District has. So short term, we fork over some money, and within probably a month or two would receive reimbursement through a grant, but we would need a short-term loan for that. At this point, it's looking like construction will most likely be in 2024 because we are still in the real estate acquisition phase. And for us to actually go to construction this summer, that means that a contract would have to be out on the street January, February, to allow for time for award and notice to proceed. This is a project that is very dependent on low flows. So in water work, there is certainly out of water work that could happen, but a large majority of it is in water work. So that's a quickie update on Skokomish. And then Belfair.
Hey, Loretta, can on the grant, is that a done deal? Refresh my memory. Is that a sure thing or a maybe thing or what's?
It's a secured grant,
Okay.
Patty.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. One of the things, though, we need to continue to closely monitor is the grant amount and what remains for construction funds. There's still adequate amount, but as we get to construction and actual bid award, we'll need to revisit that and see if there's a gap. And if there is, what we're going to do to close that gap. Belfair wastewater system. Commissioners recently appropriated 1.5 million or applied 1.5 million of the ARPA funds for this project. And we awarded a contract to PAPE, and the contract amount is 4.23 million. In talking with amongst ourselves and Commerce, I was wondering, well, first I asked Commerce, they are always wanting to show and demonstrate progress and expenditures, but they were fine with expending the ARPA funds first, if that was a choice. But probably a better use of the ARPA funds would be to use those as our little mini bridge loan. And that's something basically that we're bringing forward as to the Finance Committee, and what your direction would be on how to utilize those ARPA funds. It seems like that's probably the wisest use, actually, is to use those as our pot to pay the contractor, then apply for reimbursement through Commerce, and then move on. But you are the experts, and that is why we are here. And in terms of cash flow, Richard, I'm sorry I didn't pull that up, but we'll have a pretty large request, I'm guessing, here in the first quarter. The first order of business will be the construction of the boring under the Navy rail, and that's about a $1 million effort right there. So that'll happen fairly soon. And then after that, there will be smaller pay requests that come in, much smaller, throughout the remainder of the year contract. Any questions on cash flow? And like I said, we can certainly forward over. Richard had a pre-con with the contractor last week. And once we have their full schedule submitted, we'll have a much better idea on a more detailed cash flow projection. Richard, anything to add on that?
No, they're like you say, when we get the Navy rail easement in hand, they're going to be wanting to get going on that. Otherwise, they're going to be putting gravity sewer in the ground and waiting on the pump station. So you're right. There's going to be probably a big push right up front. We'll have a little downtime and then a heavy finish off in the late summer, early fall.
Any questions on
Yeah,
schedule
Mr.
or?
Shooty or Patty, any questions on that? Anybody else in the audience have a question on that? So the question was, would we want to use the ARPA funding as a bridge loan? Jennifer Beierle and I had a quick conversation about that and the possibility of doing that. I'm not opposed to that if that is something that we want to do with those ARPA funds. I think it's how, you know, it would best be managed through the project, you know, what your needs are up front. That funding, you know, is pretty liquid and pretty available. And I do believe that current expense has, you know, some capacity to do a short-term loan as well as an investment. So there are a couple options. If you were to do a loan through current expense, there would be interest. Obviously, that's not something we would be able to get out of, but the ARPA funding is there. And my question to Jennifer was, would we just transfer that to the Belfair water systems so there was cash on hand and track it that way, or whether or not it would be continued, those costs would be continued to be paid through ARPA and refunded through there. So, or reimbursed through there. So I just had some questions that way, but I don't think it would hold up anything in how we work through the internal process.
Lisa, from those conversations, was there any downside to that identified, or, you know, what's the
ARPA funding's already been granted to them, so they would have no interest associated with using those monies to, as you know, cash flow through the project. It was just, the question more was whether it stayed within the ARPA fund or whether it got transferred out to the Belfair sewer water so we could track them where it needed to be tracked. So that was just the question. And Jennifer, I don't know if we want to really speak that today. It's not something that would stop us from moving forward.
Sure, I can speak to that. Yeah, I think that the easiest thing to do would be to transfer that money over, but I haven't talked to Mark about this, so you may not be in agreement, Mark. We could transfer that money over as lost revenue as the ARPA section category.
I'm still processing it in my brain. We have to keep track of any interest earned on federal dollars.
We can spend this interest earned through ARPA.
Absolutely can spend it, just have to track it, right?
Right.
So if we commingle it with other funds that are within.
Well, if we're doing it though as a lost revenue, 1.5 million to the Belfair sewer, I don't believe that we do have to.
Supposedly,
Chief Jacoby, you're not muted. So I don't believe we would need to track the interest that was earned on that money through the Belfair Sewer Fund.
Okay.
And it's likely that they'll be expending it quicker than it could be earning any interest. It's not going to be sitting in that fund. So
yeah, Lisa, the question that I had, let's talk about it offline.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. Like I said, it's not something that needs to be approved by the finance committee necessarily. It was just the question that Loretta and I had come up, you know, was the use of ARPA funds as a bridge loan something that we could do and how would that work? So it's not something the finance committee has to approve. If there is a loan somewhere, then yes, that has to come back to the finance committee. So if we choose to do a loan of some sort, whether it's from the ARPA funding or current expense, that would come back to the finance committee for approval before it went to the commissioners. So there were lots of questions on how to use that and how we wanted to do it. So that's not something we need to answer today for sure.
Yeah, I would say, I think if there's some consensus, at the staff level about how to deploy those funds, then I'd be open to that. I don't want us to, I just want to make sure that we're obviously following the guidelines and all that kind of stuff,
Absolutely.
but also just making sure that that's the highest and best use of the 1.5 that was appropriated for the project. And so, yeah, I'm interested to hear what everybody comes back with.
Right, well, we'll certainly call a finance committee meeting, if it comes to a loan type process, if it comes down to that. So, and I'm sure that Jen and Mark will be updating you as they do with all of the ARPA funding as we move forward with that. So thank you, Loretta. Thank you, Richard. And I appreciate the update. And then
Thank you.
we will circle around back to both of these, I'm sure, in due time. So it's under new business. I had a review and approve the Mason County debt policy. I had included that in the packet. It was pages 45 through 50 something.
Lisa, do you want a
55.
motion? Lisa, do you want a motion to approve the?
I will need a
policy?
motion to approve that. I just want to make sure there was any discussion or before we did that, but go ahead, I'll take a motion.
I move that we adopt the Mason County debt policy.
Second.
All right. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? So just as a reminder, our current debt policy that I have before you was approved both at the state level and at the association level. To go through it, may make some major changes in the future, but right now this debt policy is working very well for us and is still consistent with policies and procedures that are accepted throughout the state of Washington and at the government finance level. So I appreciate your support of it currently, and I would call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, passes. Awesome. Thank you. That's one more thing off my to-do list for the year. I love it. And then on page 57 through, I think it's 57 and 58, or maybe 59, there's 3 pages. I just wanted to bring before you U.S. Senate Bill number 4295, which is mandating governments to report financial information using a uniform categories or data standards. This currently is part of a bill that needs to be passed by the end of the year. There are lots of issues with this, especially in the cost it would be to counties and states and small public entities to conform to the standards reporting that they're asking for in this bill. There's no money included in it to help pay for that. So while I don't oppose transparency and accessibility to information, this is buried in a defense bill. And there are lots of questions and lots of issues that we would like more time to work through and come to some agreement moving forward. The burden falls mostly on those smaller government entities that would have to switch to this type of reporting. So this is information only. I'm sure WASAC may have brought that to the attention of the commissioners. I know it's been brought to the attention of the counties. There are several counties that have sent letters to our local legislators, letting them know we have concerns about this bill moving forward. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention. This is something that could have an impact on us moving forward in 2023, 2024, and into the future. So currently, right now, we upload our annual audited financial statements to a general website called EMA or MRSB. So it's very little work on our end to have to transfer that data into some type of form, or could be time consuming, and in a form that they're requiring may not meet how we currently support our data. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. And I would ask for any questions, but I don't know that I have a whole lot of answers on it yet. This would be a big change. And then I didn't put on here for the good of an order, but is there any other business that might need to come before the finance committee today?
Not for me.
All right, hearing none, I will call for adjournment. And again, we can always meet as things come up in the future. So I'll adjourn us and you can move on to your other briefings for the day.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Patty. Okay, our next item up is an interview for the Mason County Housing and Behavioral Health Advisory Board. Commissioners, I think we're supposed to start that at 10:30. If I could just ask for a quick break and come back at 10:30 to start the interview.
And Lisa's still sharing her screen.
Yes.
There we go.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so we'll be back at 10:30. Okay, commissioners, thank you. Back on here at 10:30. I see Amanda, turned her video on there. Amanda, are you ready to go? Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
Yeah, let's start.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. So Amanda, we have a few questions for you. The commissioners will kind of just ask you in a round robin sort of style, and then no right or wrong answers, just your thoughts on the questions that we ask, and then an opportunity for you to ask us questions at the end. Okay.
Okay.
I'll go first, Commissioner Netherland, and then Commissioner Trask. So Amanda, first question is, what do you see as the function of the Mason County Housing and Behavioral Health Advisory Board?
I believe the function of the board is to identify areas that need improvement and work with other entities in our county to figure out where the funds that we receive and where they need to go.
Thank you.
Let's try it again without reading lips. What makes you the best candidate for this position?
I feel like I'm the best candidate because I am passionate about our community and I'm involved. I work for the Shelton School District and my program is actually the federal homeless program that each school is required to have. And so I work with funds that are federally dispersed to our school. I apply for the grant every 3 years. And so I have a lot of data about, what kind of homelessness we have here in Mason County that's affecting our students and how it affects our students and, what's expected of our families and our students here as far as school and what's been available in my personal experience working with homeless families and navigating them to the resources that we have here in Mason County.
Great. Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
So what skills do you think you would bring to this position?
So I think just overall knowledge and data, like I was speaking before, and real life experiences. I do a lot of home visits, and the program that I work under, homelessness can be pretty broad. It's not just families that are out on the streets, but it could be families that are doubled up, families that are in hotel, families that are in shelters. And so I have a lot of knowledge about that in Mason County, as well as being from more of the rural part of Mason County and how homelessness is out there as well. And so I guess my skill set would be having firsthand knowledge, dealing with these resources in my personal job, and then just being involved. And I've been on previous, like I'm on the school board, so I know how a board works. And so, yeah.
Great. So this question, I can tell you, I've been on this board for a couple of years now. We have never met in the evening. But if we do have a meeting in the evening, will that be an issue?
No.
Okay.
Do you have any conflicts of interest with the mission of this advisory board?
No, sir.
All right. And finally, Amanda, do you have any questions for us?
I don't think so. I have done a little bit of research about where the funding comes from for the county. And so I think it's just a matter of me learning more about how that works. I think that just like with any board, once you get in and you start performing things and learning more, your concepts and your knowledge kind of changes, because it's usually not always what you think it is. I feel like when it comes to being on a board and, wondering, why do we do this, or why is this happening? And so I don't think I have any specific questions.
All right, great.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much, Amanda. Appreciate you applying and interviewing this morning. We'll be making a decision here, I think, in short order, and then we'll let you know what the next steps are.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, commissioners, I don't think we have any additional applicants for this seat on the board. I don't know if Melissa is on here or not, but I believe this is the only one from this commission district. So preface it by saying that. Any conversation now, or do we want to hold off?
I don't mind asking. Extremely competent, obvious. She absolutely has a lot of the knowledge. Is there any monies or anything that would be going to any of the programs and stuff that she would be doing with the school district or anything?
No, so this is the money that passes through us through commerce and our treatment sales tax, and the Shelton School District is not a recipient of any of those funds.
Then I think we're lucky to have had her apply. I don't know her at all, but it's kind of obvious she's very good quality.
Yeah, the little that I know about her, she's a rock star. And so I would support her being a part of this committee.
Yeah,
for tomorrow, Commissioner?
Yeah, preferably. I think her skill set would be fantastic and bring a great perspective to the advisory board. And so I would be comfortable moving this forward to tomorrow's action agenda.
I'll agree.
Yep, me too.
Great. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, moving on to support services. Mark.
Thank you, Commissioner. We're starting off here with some park fees. This is information that Mrs. Zorn brought to you before, and you guys kind of gave her some homework to go back and look at what would it look like if we did something less than CPI, and she's got information to present today. So go for it, Diane.
Morning, Commissioners. So as Mark said, we went back and looked at the parks fee setting policy. And what we're recommending is that we change it to use the Seattle-Tacoma Bellevue CPIU, which is the Consumer Price Index Urban, and include with that a minimum and a maximum. And we're suggesting right now a minimum of 2% and then a maximum of either 5 or 7%. And then I included in the rates what it would look like with both of those maximums and how much that would impact the field use fees.
If we went with a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 5, I don't think it would matter for my next question, but did we look at all cities?
We looked at a lot of CPIs.
Okay, I meant the term all cities, which was.
I had a hard time finding in all cities. I think we found like a national one. And that's Mark and I looked at several of those. And that's where we came up with the Seattle, Tacoma, Bellevue. Because there's no South Puget Sound city in a group like that. And then the all cities we found, anything I saw was more on a national. And also when we did check what those rates were, they were all, they're pretty close.
Well, if we went 2 and 5, usually I think it was like 80% from the Seattle CPI. But again, if we were putting this, you're going to be close either way. I'd be supportive of the sidebars.
You like 5 or 7%?
I like 5. We can change it again, but for now, I think that's 5% is a lot for these youth organizations.
Yeah, I'd go with 5.
Yeah, I can go with 5 as well. Is this something that we're going to look at applying more broadly, or is this just going to be specific to the parks usage fees?
I think
This policy is for parks only. I'll defer to Mark on how it might apply to other rates in the county.
I would love to be consistent, Commissioner Schutte. I'd love to kind of create a standard that we look at and apply, and it just makes it easier to explain to our constituents about how we determine what our increases are. I think that it's likely, but I like to repeat it for those that are listening that may not understand the reasoning behind this. Our costs of operations increase every year. So we try and find a measuring tool that we can use to reflect what those increased costs are. And this isn't talking about doing more with more revenue. This is talking about trying to maintain the level of service that we have, whether it's a utility or whether it's a park, or whether it's a service that we provide. To the same levels. And so when we have high inflation, that inflation impacts the county in the cost of the goods that we buy and the cost of our staff that we employ. So I appreciate the board entertaining the idea and of doing a min and max, because I think that makes sense. There are periods of time where CPIU may be less than 2%, and having at least 2% in there helps make up for these times where we're implementing something smaller than what our cost increases are. So that I'm a little bit concerned about going with 5% just because it's, that's adding, this additional 5% of cost that we're actually increasing. The 7% is a little more easy to swallow, but I actually 100% agree. Commissioner Netherland brought up that these are youth sports, and whether it's youth sports or whether it's a family that's receiving utility services on a fixed income, and they don't see the increases, or the increases that they do see are applied to some of their basic needs. So being able to limit how much we increase these costs is definitely important to those folks. So I will move forward with whatever the board recommends. If you like 5 and 2, that's something that we can go with, and we can start applying that to our other rates also.
I myself, even though I like that number, I want to point out that right now I'm saying I'm supportive of it for the parks, and other funds are required at times to stand on their own. And so we have to have a different discussion with these other types of entities when it comes to how to fund it. But as for the parks, it's just a reminder that our people already pay into this. This is something that benefits the whole of the county, and the county takes money to do it. It's not meant to make a profit or meant to even have to break even. The REIT funds were designed and directed specifically for that originally, and it was not just to again break even. That's not it. It's a service that we are providing. Unlike some of the discussions we'll have when it comes to sewers, water, and the like, those are standalone by law and have requirements of what it takes to maintain them. So I'm supportive of it for this. I'm not saying I wouldn't be supportive for the sewer. I'm just saying right now the conversation for myself is just the parts.
Just a quick reminder, I believe it was last week, Richard Dickinson brought our refuse or our garbage rates and had a similar conversation with the board. So we would be looking to apply some type of min and max associated with those proposed rates also. So
I ask that we also do something else, that we have this, that it's brought up in maybe a 3-year term. That will also help protect us in the future if we do decide to use this type of policy going forward with other entities, that it is brought before the board at a minimum every 3 years to have a discussion on whether to maintain it, expand it, or contract.
So we have I believe that these rates are brought before the board each year. Is that correct, Diane?
I meant the policy.
Yeah, I was gonna say the rates are, but yeah, the policy is until they change it, and we don't have any kind of set review of policies. But it usually comes up when you're setting rates because you're referring to your policy. So,
well, I believe that most of our rates are set in the individual code.
yes,
In the individual sections.
Yes.
So we can create a policy that kind of is overreaching and says, this is the principles that we want to use, but we're still going to have to go back and change the individual code associated with how we establish rates for all of these different topics that we're talking about. Is that correct, Diane?
yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll bring forward the parks fee policy and the new field use agreement at the November 22nd meeting.
At
Thank you.
5%, right? 5,
2 and 5.
2 and 5. Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks, Diane, for running all this down.
You bet.
Good job on your numbers.
Thank you, Mark.
I like numbers. All right, now we have our pursuit vehicle. So Chief Drackaby and Jen, do you guys want to jump in and talk about those?
Yes, good morning, commissioners. So we have 4 PPVs, police pursuit vehicles the orders were canceled. So if you remember, we presented the rates and signed orders back in June, July-ish. And now we have found out that our orders were canceled just for the police pursuit vehicles because we had such a small order. And so our option is now to buy these vehicles from a dealership and not through the factory. So we're requesting permission to replace the Tahoes. They're not available. And Chief Drackaby has determined that we can replace those Tahoes with the Interceptors, that is acceptable. And so we're requesting permission to order the 4 police Interceptor utilities in place of 2 canine Tahoes and 2 police Interceptor utilities. And Chief Drackaby, if you want to add anything to that, please feel free.
You kind of hit everything. The industry changed on us when we first got involved with enterprise. COVID changed everything. Supply chain problems changed everything. And I just got off the phone with Ryan Lewis from Enterprise earlier this morning, talking to him about what actually happened and what we can do to resolve that. It was stuff that was outside their control and outside of our control. We do need to step up for 2024 and make sure that we get on top of the order early in 2023. So,
Chief, are they saying that there's no chance they're going to be back up and able to fulfill these contracts within this year?
The contracts that we signed early in 2023 and into June of 2023, Enterprise was unable to fill those contracts because the manufacturers were unable to fill them or declined to take the orders. The manufacturers, it appears now, have entered a different business model, at least for the next few years. They're limiting the number of units that they're building, and then it appears that they're focusing strictly on larger purchases, which kind of makes sense. So now we have to go out to a secondary or tertiary resource to pick up those cards, which every time you change hands, somebody wants a little bit of money. So we got to reach out to one or two other places to see if we can pick up those cars there. That's what this increase is about.
And the increased cost, commissioners, is pretty minimal considering the change. We're estimating it at a little less than $8,000 for 23.
So a little less than $8,000 for all of them?
Yes, and that's
Okay.
because we're trading in the Tahoes for the Interceptors. The Tahoes are more expensive,
Okay,
even with the price increase on the Interceptors.
but it'll still go through the enterprise fleet management and such?
Yes.
Okay, I'm supportive. That's a small price to be able to make sure we have that now for them instead of waiting a year and hoping.
Yeah, I don't know what other option we would have. I mean, this is the recommendation that Ryan with Enterprise had, and he offered to come and speak to you, commissioners, if that's something that you would want, but we're just regurgitating what he told us.
And I would expect, though, that if we had to, they could find a way to reshuffle the deck and put us with other entities, but we'd have to wait for other entities at the same time. And again, if Chief Drackley says this vehicle will work, and we're only looking at an increase over 4 vehicles of 8,000, that's 2,000 a piece to make sure they have it in hand. Again, seems like a small investment, so I'll be supportive.
Yeah, no, I think I'm supportive too. I think it's a great idea. Make sure we have good vehicles for our folks.
Great, thank you. And if it's okay, we would like to put this on the agenda for tomorrow, just so we can get it moving.
Yeah, good with me.
Same.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chief.
The next item that I have is the 2022 supplemental appropriations and amendments to the 22 budget. So this is the second and final planned budget hearing for 2022. And I will be bringing forward more amendments to the budget next week, but I wanted to put together a very preliminary list of the items that we have currently. And most of these things I think have been briefed to you in the past, and I've just been gathering them up and put this list together. And don't pay attention to the line numbering that you see there. I forgot to change that before I turned it in. But at this point, we have a little less than $1 million expenditure change in the general fund, and then $868,000 in all the other special funds. So at this point, the budget impact to 22 is on the expenditure side, approximately 1.826 million. And then on the revenue side, about 1,157,000 of that is going to be an increase in revenue. So
The only part I don't recognize is I don't remember the lobbying services increase.
that's just to include the lobbying services in our budget. It's not really an increase.
It wasn't in our budget?
No, it was not.
Well, I know we agreed to do it. Okay. I just surprised that it was not in our budget.
Yeah, I don't remember if that was after the adopted budget that we agreed to do it, or if I just missed it. But yeah, the total is 4,000 a month, so 48,000 in total for the year.
I'm good.
Do we have a meeting Monday?
Oh, is there no briefing on Monday, the 14th?
I'll be at the Wasatch conference, the county leaders conference.
I believe that we do not have a meeting on Monday.
Okay, well, I'll be bringing more forward then on the 21st.
Perfect.
And then this will go for adoption on the 22nd. And I know there will be some changes because I've found a few since I put this together, and I gave everybody until today to get any changes into me, so I could possibly be getting more requests today from departments.
Okay, well, this is our last one, so you need that extra time anyway then, because I was just saying.
Yeah, I needed to get everything through October and really take a good look analyzing everything that's happened through October and what's going to happen between November and December.
But I guess I'm saying you don't need us to just push us through and just get it done, because you still have some more you may need to have listed before we can advertise it.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's all that I have for you until our budget workshop.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm navigating our new bookmarking, which good job, Mackenzie. It actually is easier, so I appreciate the work.
As do I.
Mary.
Morning, Commissioners. I wanted to bring forward for briefing and then adoption tomorrow, if possible, an approval of a 1.75 general wage increase for non-represented employees effective January 1 of 2023. HR is recommending this increase for non-reps. We want to make sure that we're maintaining parity with increases for members to make sure that we're staying in line with our collective bargaining agreements around the county. And it will also help to address market issues that could potentially arise as we continue our classification and compensation study. So I had attachment B is the new non-rep salary range alignment, demonstrating that 1.75 that would be effective January 1 of 2023 for all non-reps.
I am supportive.
As well.
As am I.
Excellent, thank you. And then my second item is the request of approval for the January 2022 to December 2025 collective bargaining agreement for Teamsters Local number 252 and Operating Engineers Local 302 representing Mason County Public Works Unit. We have reached a tentative agreement, and I would like to make sure that everyone's aware that we did very collaborative negotiations process and worked together very well in order to reach this agreement, which is attached, and looking forward to moving that for approval tomorrow so we can get the union signatures and get it done.
I'm
Good with me.
supportive.
Great work.
Yep, agreed.
That's all I've got, Mark. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Next item we have is Mr. Taylor. John, are you with us?
I am. Good morning, Commissioners. This morning, I'd like to brief you on the Homeland Security program for FY 2022 grant, contract number E23-098 for the amount of $15,335. And this is an annual grant that we get, which is traditionally a pass-through from the Department of Homeland Security through a Washington State Military Department Emergency Management Division through Homeland Security Region 3 to us. We've allocated this money this year to assist the Sheriff's Department in acquiring a non-manned underwater drone that will help with search and rescue and identification of evidence and other pieces. We only, the total amount I understand is $32,800. We're assisting them with $15,335, and we'll be coming back with you with the assistance of the Sheriff Department and Sergeant Severance with an update in the program on how we expect complete that gap and execute or purchase the property and institute it within the county usage. Is there any questions about this?
Sorry.
It was just the cost. I don't know what a remote vehicle. Blah, blah, blah. I had a different cost.
Yeah, I apologize for that, Commissioner. I didn't have an opportunity to review this when I came back. I'll verify the cost and come back as we look at the full project.
Okay. So for the commissioners, the cost I had was almost 75K. So just wanted to remind you.
Yeah, thank you. That's good.
So John, just to clarify on this, we'd be dedicating this $15,335 to go towards that purchase. If the commissioners did not approve the remainder, we could actually file a change and apply this elsewhere.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Only thing I see on that is the Kevin is the chair right now.
Say that again, I'm sorry.
On the form, it has Randy as the chair, and right now you're the chair. I don't know whether that really makes a big difference or not, but just as to form.
Oh, yeah.
Did you catch that, John?
Yes, sir. I'll go ahead and correct it and make sure the appropriate amounts on there when we move forward with briefing the commission on the full project.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions on this item, commissioners?
For me.
All right, moving on. I'm bringing to you a memorandum of agreement from the Port of Allen. So this is maybe before all of you, but back in 2009, the Port of Allen came to the county commissioners and were attempting to get a water right to drill a new well. And one of the items that our commissioners agreed to in a briefing was to apply some of the reclaimed water that we introduced back into the aquifer through North Bay sewer system, to dedicate that to their water right. And at that time, the board had agreed. So the North Bay Sewer Utility reclaims approximately, and I hope Richard Dickinson is still on because he can correct me if I'm wrong, but 365,000 gallons per day. The dedication that we're giving them is the 2.7 acre feet per month. So if you have to go that into if you have to convert that into gallons, it's 880,000 gallons per month. So if we do 365,000 gallons up to 365 a day, 880 is about 8% of our normal monthly reclaimed water production. There are some months that we do not apply, and so those would factor into it. But for the most part, talking with both our utilities as well as David Windom, I think that we're good. I think that there's no concerns about applying this. So what I'm asking is that I bring this forward to the board tomorrow, this memorandum of agreement that would give Commissioner Schutte the ability to sign, providing it to the Port of Allen so that they can get their paperwork completed.
I'll help you, Commissioner Trask. For part of the backstory, just so you know, I was actually port commissioner at the time. I'm the one that came and brought it to the county. The county did agree to do it, and as you see in the letter that's next to it, Tom Moore, who was the deputy director at the time, recognized it in a memorandum form by putting it in this message to the port. What we're doing here is just given a document that'll make it easier for the tribes to be able to recognize it and work through with them compared to the one that was given to the port in 2009. The agreement is the same. You ready, Commissioner Trask?
Thank you. Yes, I am. Timing is everything, right? Yeah, no, I think this is a good move forward.
Yeah, I'm supportive as well.
Great. So we will move that forward for your agenda tomorrow. For our regular agenda. So the next item that I want to talk to you about is our legislative priorities. So we talked about this a little bit last week, I believe, and so bringing forward specific projects that that we'd like to look for some additional funding to help us out. So I've talked with Deborah and a number of different conversations about here's some of the specific projects associated with Mason County that we'd like to look for funding for. Some of these may be easier than others, but definitely wanted to bring them before the board so that you could see what existed out there. And these are the ARPA requests that we were unable to fund that are specific to Mason County.
Mark, are you saying that Deborah has had a chance to look at this list as well?
She has.
Okay. And did she provide any feedback that might be informative to our discussion?
You know, she did. She provided to me legislative agenda for sheriffs and police chiefs. So one of the things that they're looking for, and this is potentially additional revenue source for the county, they are going forward and asking to secure ongoing funding, and it would be specific to recruit and retain additional law enforcement and correction officers, but it also would help with providing some resources to maybe offset our current costs that we could then utilize for some of these projects if we wanted to. But what their proposal is that they would do 0.1% sales tax credit. So this would be a credit against the amount that the state receives that we would be able to retain and pay for some of those costs. So she was just letting us know that that is an item that one of four main items that the sheriffs and police chiefs are bringing forward. She did think that there are some additional funding out there for specific projects in here, and she felt like she could look at to see which ones are probably the easiest as legislative requests. So I think that when you get into the spray field expansion, some of the difficult ones may be the second floor addition to the sheriff's office.
So commissioners, do you mind if I go off of the written topic here for a minute? This may not even be doable. You two will know better than I would by far on this one because of your experiences there. But right now there is a lot of feeling out there that I can feel in the conversations I'm having for actual infrastructure and infrastructure dollars, although I don't think we are properly prepared for it, and maybe we'll disagree and we want to hold off until we are ready. But I think we should have a minimum ask of $5 million for construction to go towards construction of a new jail. That'll offset the differences that has occurred in the economy at this point, and that we, if we're able to get that we also dedicate into our request that we will put forward a minimum of 35 million to do it, because I still think we can pull off one of the dormitory style and the like in the location we have here within that, but having that seed money would make it affordable and allow us to take in the new cost of living that has occurred in between this last 2 years when we've had these discussions. But our budget still shows that we have the ability to pull off a $35 million payment, and 5 million seed would be pretty wonderful. It's a long shot, I know, but if you don't ask, the answer is no. But maybe we're not ready for that now. But if we are, you would tell me better than anybody.
I'll jump in real quick. I know that for the Association of Counties and our legislative steering committee, there's going to be a lot of asks as far as jails go, keeping our law enforcement competitive and trying to attract more. The entire state's having a hard time with this right now. A lot of our jails, I think they were built in the 80s. And so everybody is, well, not everybody. You've got your bigger cities, counties, King County, Pierce. They've got good facilities, and but a lot of ours are aging. And took a tour of the jail. it's old. It's very old, and it could use quite a few updates. But would the updates be appropriate? Would they keep us going? So building a new jail, I think, is absolutely critical. I guess long story short, that's what I'm saying. The $5 million ask, I would like to see, and I think a lot of my the other commissioners on the LSC, I think what they would like to see is for the state to step up and say, no, we've got, this much money, let's help all the counties out that need it and push forward. So I don't know whether a capital budget request would be appropriate at this time. It doesn't hurt to ask, right? They can just say no. So I guess I would support that, but just be ready for a no.
And I just, I would be, but just like when it came to the bypass, hearing the same type of rumors when I was pushing that back then, they thought it was going to be a no for sure. But having your stuff out there on the table when they do start to feed people gives us a little bit of an edge. And even if it's a no for 3 years, and then all of a sudden it's a yes. So I just was hoping to get a start.
Ask 3 times, hopefully. It might work. I would say there's going to be a lot of asks, especially if other counties hear that we're doing it. So there's going to be a lot of people. I'll know more after next week too, after the county leaders conference. That's one of the topics that we'll be addressing. So I think Deb's going to be at that also. And so we'll be able to come back with a more informed decision, I guess, as to how the other counties are moving forward. And then as far as the list goes, I do think it's so important that we work on our solid waste facilities. I think we've fallen behind. That's another thing that we've fallen behind on, is our facilities. As far as purchasing, the elections, the MCSO second floor, and then the ballot sorter machine, I think that we could hold off on those. There could be other things coming down the line also. So I think that holding off on those would be, in my opinion, a good idea.
So I really like the idea of investing in our solid waste transfer stations. I think those are asks that are ripe for member request projects, similar to how we approached Russellwood last year, and we're I think we received just over $500,000 and cleared up a significant project at Russellwood. So I guess my priorities would be the tipping floor, the storage building. Would have a question for Richard if he is on though.
On
Richard, for the hazardous waste storage building, if for whatever reason we end up going in a different direction with household hazardous waste, if we look at other options there, is this a building that could serve multiple functions? Or, I mean, if we build it to these specifications, are we kind of locked in to that specific function?
Yeah, they're pretty much designed for a very specific function.
Okay.
For sure. I just I've gotten some updates from our current hauler that may have some options for us with that. So that's something we may want to revisit.
Okay. So
very quickly, shortly here.
Yeah, for sure. So, along those lines, I mean, I think there's maybe an opportunity to look at the Belfair transfer station and putting a request in for scales, moving forward with that project. I think that would be beneficial to our solid waste system as a whole, but generally looking at those. And then, as far as the gel is concerned, I mean, I think we have been hearing, but heard again loud and clear on Friday at our meeting with the city that that there is, we're reaching a point where, there's a huge demand for action on our part. And, and I think being able to, take take the undersheriff up on his offer to help the legislature, and starting to make the case along with our other counties in the state for why there should be statewide program or funding for a project like that. But I think we have a lot to do to get our house in order too, so we know what kind of project we're going for. I think we just need to kind of get our own act together so that we can all go down and advocate for exactly what it is we need, and kind of do that work, I think, on the front end. So not opposed to it, but I definitely want to see more progress happening internally, so that we don't ask for the wrong thing or in the wrong way or whatever, so that there is some consensus between us and the people that will operate it.
Yep, I agree. I think another thing that came out of the meeting on Friday was the task force. So I really like the idea of reaching out and bringing in citizens and other professionals or experts to be on that task force too. So I'd like to see that move forward.
So Commissioner Netherland, I want to maybe just try to think about how we might approach an ask like that. I mean, are you thinking, an initial ask for, I don't know, maybe design, or kind of what would an ask look like, I guess?
I guess for myself, I think the only thing that they would consider giving us outside the box would not be for design. I think it would be to be utilized either for construction or expansion, and actually to put it in those terms. The reason why is I'm saying for ourselves, I think we're going to end up back within what we can afford to build, no matter how we look at it. And looking at the numbers and the money, as I quite often do, I think that we could do the 35 million. It's going to be harder now because of the interest rates difference, unless we were to talk about some type of internal loans, which are possibilities that we've never taken advantage of, and it's not always liked. But it is cheaper to do some of that stuff. And we are one group that cannot forfeit. We cannot not pay. So with that, I still think we have 35 million to invest. And if we had another 5 million, we can get it at 40, which is where I think the cost would be to do what we're doing. That's why I came up with the 5 million number. I would love more, but I also think they would give it to us as seed, rather than any chance that we would get the money we actually need from them to build a jail.
So let me add a little bit to the conversation and just to clarify a few things. So what you see on this list is obviously in a fairly minimal request of $300,000, and I think that was an estimate because they've had some problems with contraband being thrown over the top of the rec areas, and then inmates being able to kind of shake the screens and get them down. I've been in discussions with Kelly Frazier, and he has some pretty amazing staff. So if you'll notice out in front of the jail facility, they trimmed some of the trees. If you call it trimming, I thought it was it's a fairly significant trim, but they assured me that they grow back, and they showed me like 4 other trees that they did the same thing to in previous years, and they grow back nice. So by trimming those trees, it definitely opens up viewing access from the cameras that we have on the facility. And then Kelly also has an idea about material that we can purchase that would go over the top of it, that would be smaller in diameter, and we could wrap it in a way that individuals could not get underneath it to get some of the stuff that they're trying to get in now in. So I do think that we have a solution for that. In relation to the, sorry, Commissioner Trask, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. So would it be possible to just fence off that area? Not the entire facility, but just that area where they are tossing things onto the top?
It would be, but I think it'd be more expensive than some of the options that Kelly's coming up with. So I still need to sit down with Chief Hansen and talk to him about those. We just kind of had a preliminary discussion about it the other day and walked around the facility and took a look at some areas that I think potentially could be risky areas where individuals might be able to get something through. And Chief Hansen had mentioned to this to me before when I took a tour of the jail last month. And so I definitely saw where they were having problems and have been talking with Kelly about some options. So I think that there's some options out there, but would like to find the most cost-effective option. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Trask? Not really. Yes, we could build a fence. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. You know, the Kelly's very inventive. So
he is. Yeah.
If you can come up with some good solid ideas that are cost saving, I'd be open to hearing them.
Yeah, I think he's got some good ideas. So the other item that I wanted to touch on is just a little bit of experience that I've had with the legislature, in the sense that Commissioner Netherland has a point in terms of having items in front of them makes them aware that these are requests that are coming forward, and ideas or issues that we're facing as a county. I think that they are all aware that some of us smaller counties that received federal funding back in the 80s to build our jails definitely need more funding to upgrade the facilities and bring them current with the capacity needs that we have, as well as the operational styles that have changed over the years. So I don't think that there is a downside to educating the legislature regarding needs that we have. But I really am supportive of kind of dusting off the plans that we have. Under Sheriff Adams had brought forward an idea with some local resources that we have that are familiar with jail operations, are familiar with capital construction, are familiar with different, I'm assuming, operational needs that a correctional facility has. And so what's the most effective, efficient way to run a jail nowadays? So bringing those individuals in, kind of dusting off those plans and really understanding the plans that we have, are these the plans that we would want to move forward with, I think would give me a stronger feeling of, I wasn't involved in those, so it's trying to catch up a little bit, but there's a lot of material that's out there. So definitely give me an opportunity to sit down and discuss and go over that with experts in the field, including our own staff. And so putting something out there as a placeholder may not be a bad idea.
Well, and myself personally, I'm not a fan of what we put together. It's not even close to what we could afford. And although at the meeting you said 90, that was for the base. With the contingency, with the property, with the infrastructure, it could have been as high as 120 million. And that's just, we're just not that rich. So, but one of the things, and the other commissioners, again, would know better than I do, but utilized it before in the past as a port commissioner, but also we were doing the infrastructure for the bypass and getting all that in. There are certain people that will support certain things no matter what. There's people in there that believe you bring a transit project, they're going to vote for it, they're going to support it. You bring different things. Well, law enforcement and actually building jails, there are different elected officials that will jump on board with that just to get it started in the hopes of getting their own. So that's another reason why I wanted to put on there in hopes of finding a way to make a team. And it'd be nice if we could talk and get more out of them if a movement did begin, and it could begin any year. We all know it. I just want to have a piece in there.
Okay, so any other topics that you don't see on here that you'd like to include in terms of capital requests?
I think the Belfair, the scales for Belfair.
I wrote that one down.
Okay.
The only other thing I would maybe ask, and this is for Richard and Loretta, is so I was looking at our SEDS list, and we have a couple of projects that are listed under the planning section related to Belfair sewer, and so it's the Belfair WRF critical equipment replacement project at $371,000, and then the Belfair resiliency project at $300,000, and then just a Mason plan update at $250,000. be good to get a little bit more detail on those three, is in particular the first two that seem like construction type projects that I don't know if we cleared those with ARPA funds or otherwise have invested in those or where they stand, but those might be a couple of projects ripe for member request, capital budget items as well.
Okay, I tell you what, I can run down more detail on those for sure, especially those first two.
Yeah.
And flesh them out very, very quickly. I'll get that done right away.
Great.
One of the other items I wanted to mention is that as we approach 2024 elections, sometimes the feds get excited and start throwing money down to the locals. So I think that keeping our eyes and ears open for opportunities to help us out with some of that stuff, I'm hopeful to see some money coming.
Right, and I think that we should continue to look for other alternatives also. So I think it's not a either or, it's a kind of inclusive. So
great.
So I want to maybe make a very government request, or maybe a potentially even unpopular request, but so last year we started the IT steering committee, and I think that's been a really effective group at sort of vetting IT projects and getting us on a more sustainable path for cybersecurity projects and replacement projects and that kind of thing. It might be worth looking at a similar committee for facilities, future facility needs, so that we know that there's I think a lot of conversation happening in different departments about what their facilities needs are, what our facilities options are. Kelly and his team do a fantastic job, and I think working with Mark and our contract engineering firm, I think things are going well there. But I think just having a more sort of holistic approach to when you're looking at a voting center, or you're looking at what needs might be out at Building 8 for public health and community development, or you're looking at just all the jail issues, and and that's its own kind of beast, I guess. But just looking at having a group together that is focused on just the future facility needs and vetting some options that could come back to us, I think might be a helpful thing, because that's just a recurring theme I think that keeps coming up.
So as a part of my plan was to do just that in our capital facilities plan update to our comprehensive plan. So I think having a group that gets together that kind of talks and documents all those needs, and maybe even a timeline associated with, like, what does that look like, right? And when are we going to need some space for especially as our population grows. And in our meeting on Friday with the city of Shelton, we talked about some of the projects that are coming to our area. We are aware of the projects that are happening now up in Belfair. So as we continue to increase our population here, then the demand on those services will also increase, and we need to be prepared for that. So I'm fully supportive, Commissioner Schutte, of getting those folks together and seeing where we can identify all of our needs for space, and coming up with a plan that we could share with the city as well as our departments and offices, that talks about how do we continue to grow as a county in a controlled way, but in planning for it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder, but great idea.
No, you're fine. I didn't actually I wasn't putting a committee together. I was just kind of pulling people together myself, but I think putting an official committee together makes a lot of sense. I receive requests from individual offices and departments talking about their space needs. But actually putting that all together on one plan is going to feed that capital facilities plan portion of our comprehensive plan, as well as give the commissioners an opportunity to really see holistically as Mason County as a whole, where are we headed and what do we need. I think it'll make those decisions easier to determine what path do we want to take.
Great.
Okay, so I will definitely follow up with Deb on these items and talk about some of the needs that we have for solid waste. Talk about potentially Commissioner Netherland, I will get back to you on exactly what Deb sees in terms of avenues for talking about reimbursement of jail costs or some additional funding that could help us with building a jail. And I was going to talk about this during commissioners' discussion, but is the board comfortable with putting together a group that can actually evaluate options for a new jail?
Yes, I personally, I just want to make sure that we don't run into the same trap we've done in the past. And that's that we put these things together in an attempt to look like we're, doing the big community thing in order to get a vote. They see through it every time, but we have a habit of doing it every time. So it'd be nice if we don't do that and don't get them angry as we're looking at different options.
Well, I just need 3 votes. So this would actually be super helpful for me in becoming more intimately familiar with what are our jail needs and what does this outlook look like in terms of if we were to build a new facility, what are the options that are out there, and just kind of get me more familiar with the operations of our jail, as well as the space needs and the population needs that we see facing us.
So do we have, first off, I guess I'll just say, yeah, no issue with me with having a committee formed and identifying, who should be on that and everything. I'm fine with that. When we went through the study with KMB, can you just confirm that we've received all of the deliverables from them that we should have from the needs assessment that they did, or what might be outstanding from that? Because I think they put together a lot of data that, we could probably dissect project scope or cost or all that kind of stuff, but the data is the data. From the demographic standpoint, at least, and needs assessment perspective. So I wouldn't want to have you all start from scratch on that again, since we did pay for it. And so just making sure that we received all of those deliverables, and then, and then we can figure out, what the appropriate budget is and what's affordable. And then, I think work backwards from there, but I wouldn't want to lose that data.
I 100% agree. Matter of fact, we've never actually had a roundup where we sat together and looked at the data. We went straight to the building. And I think that was a failure, where if we do what you're suggesting, Commissioner Schutte, now, that would be the wisest thing we could do. Look and see what we have, what we need. That's how I think we actually get buy-in from the community as well. The thing that's always been so elusive. But by doing it just as simple that way, I think we'll be in a stronger position to provide for them.
Well, I would hate that any of us make a decision depending on getting reelected. And so let's not go down that rabbit hole. But I don't know why anybody would not want the community involved. We've got some amazing people in Mason County, and to not bring them into the conversation would be perfect, I think.
Yeah, and just for clarification, in the past they didn't use it for re-election. They were using it for bond, for getting the community to vote a tax or something like that. It wasn't for anybody's re-election that I can remember, at least.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, that absolutely is one of the issues, right? In terms of funding, there's options that the county has to institute additional revenue generating platforms that would help us pay for some of these things. So I think that all of those items, really, I think definitely determining what our needs are, what is the plan that we're comfortable with moving forward on, what is that cost updated, and then how would we pay for it, are all deliverables that I would expect to get from a committee.
Yeah.
So I will reach out to Under Sheriff Adams and see if we can't get that started. And gosh, I would love to have a summary of the work that has been done. There's volumes of information that exists that I've gone through, but I've gone through it just scanning it and really need to dive into that more. So this will help me focus on that item.
Mark, I would also just suggest that if this does come together, or when this comes together, that you have somebody from the city participate. I think that way they can have some assurance that we're actually trying to make progress on this, because it feels like there's some frustration on that side of railroad that that this maybe has fallen off of our radar, or we've moved on to other priorities. But just want to make sure that they're part of the process from the beginning.
Absolutely. Police chief, I think, is very interested in it, and as well as the city council. So
yeah, commissioners, looks like Commissioner Pierce has his hand raised. Any objection to me?
No objection, Commissioner. Thank you for asking though, because just so you know, Commissioner, we don't usually take input during briefings, but by him asking that, I have no issue, Commissioner. Thank you for asking.
Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks. I just wanted to make sure that it's any development of a capital facilities group or committee would include Central Mason as a participant, please.
Great.
Commissioner, is that for any development of a plan for a new jail, or are you talking about our capital facilities plan for the county?
The capital facilities plan for the county, as well as any engagement that involves both the county and the city.
Absolutely.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you. Okay. Mark, anything else on these items?
Nothing else on those items.
Okay. Commissioners, all good to move on?
Mm-hmm.
So the next item that I bring in before you is I've engaged with Helix Design Group. So Helix Design Group is the company that has assisted us on the work that we've done for Building 10. We need to finish the inside of Building 10 to relocate our district court into that facility. That's gonna really allow us to do a number of things for Superior Court as well as the clerk's office. And so I've been in conversations with all three of those groups. And so this is the first step in that process. And I've talked to Helix. They've provided me with some initial plans. I've talked with District Court, and they've provided me with some revised plans. And so this proposal here before you today is to allow me to negotiate a contract with Helix that would bring them in to do the programming and space planning needs and ensure that what does that look like? And then the next step would be actually having them design it. So any questions on that?
Not for me.
Glad to see it moving forward.
Okay. I see Judge Steele here. Judge Steele, did you have anything that you'd like to add?
Not at this point. When we get time to discussing what the plans are going to be, of course, I'll be very interested in having input at that time.
Oh, you'll be integrally involved in the space planning needs for sure.
I'll try not to cause your eyes to glaze over when I speak.
Well, we're good, I think.
Okay, great.
All right, so I'm gonna be. You see the proposal that they've provided there, so I will get a contract set up so that they can get started on it.
Excellent, very good.
So that's all I had for support services. Kind of a long list, but ready to move on to public health.
There we go. And it slowly comes up. So I have a short list. So we'll be a point and counterpoint with Mark. So commissioners, I just have two items, both revolving around the Consolidated Homeless Grant. One item is for, it's just an amendment to the contract. It's going to Consolidated Homeless Grant, an additional $761,607. And this will be subcontracted out to Crossroad Housing for a term from November 1st. So it's already started, this contract period, through June 30. The other one is homeless grant eviction prevention program, and it's through the Youth Connection. So both of these are started already. So what we're asking for is permission to put these on the agenda for tomorrow, so we have as small a gap in providing services as we can.
Super supportive.
As well.
Yes.
Okay, good to both.
That's it. That's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner, anything for Dave?
Nope.
All righty.
Okay, thank you.
Right, moving on to Public Works. Loretta?
Morning. First up, commissioners, we have a special market purchase, and Richard can fill you in on, we're putting the ARPA funds to work.
Right away. And it's a little change. I'm gonna call them yard tractors, because calling them yard goats caused me quite a few phone calls. So we're not buying $250,000 worth of goats. We're actually buying 2 yard tractors to move our trailers around, which we need to be really efficient and effective with those, with the increase in solid waste. Actually, Saturday, we surpassed all of 2020's annual solid waste total. And we're on track really by December 9th, we should surpass last year's total. So that should help demonstrate the need for these. We did get favorable prices, right about what we thought. They went up just a little bit from our quote, which was probably 8 months old. So yeah, we reached back out to all 3 vendors. The Kalmars were the low bid, and they actually have them in stock right now. So we would like to move forward with this and get these coming.
So the remaining balance would be paid out of the solid waste budget.
And, yep, and we have that. They're actually in a couple of line items. We've done really well. We use these yard goats for a lot of reasons, but one of them is get them out of the hole, take them up way they can before we close it all up, make sure it's up to weight. We've done that, and we've been doing that with every trailer. And right now I can say we've saved about 130,000 plus on our hauling fees due to that. So we definitely have the funds there to do this. And I just want to encourage our group to be efficient and reward them with some vehicles that don't have to be pushed out of the hole by a front end loader.
I'm supportive.
Him as well. Okay, great. There you go.
Richard, if you need some goats, Jennifer Beierle might be able to help you out with some.
We did get the word that one person told me I could buy as many as I want on Craigslist for $500 a piece. Why I was buying 2 for close to $250,000 was absurd.
Yes, I do have some goats. I do have a question about the about the ARPA funding for this. So, or more of a comment, I guess. I would prefer that it gets paid out of ARPA, and then the asset is transferred over. That's what we've been trying to do. So that's my comment, commissioners and Public Works. Besides that, yes, I definitely have a couple of goats for you.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification, Jan. I know we've gone back and forth on which way, but okay, good enough.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. And then next up, commissioners, Richard forwarded some information, some comparative rate information for you as part of consideration for our annual rate increase.
One interesting thing to notice, the Kitsap County, I have it marked down as 2022. that's carrying over. It will be their 2023 rate as well. But this is after they just had two 16.5% increases to catch up.
Yikes.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be them. That was in 6 months apart, 16.5%.
Commissioners, would you like Richard to walk through the spreadsheet or any questions on the spreadsheet?
I'd like him to walk through it if you can, because I don't have it.
Oh,
That's not good. I'm sorry. I can send it to you while I do this, if that would be good. But let's see. We are proposing a 9% increase by resolution. And let's see, per ton, ours would be at $120.20 per ton. Kitsap's will be 118. Grace Harbor will be 109.50. Jefferson County 162.93, and Thurston County be 119. Those are the only counties I looked at because they are our direct neighbors. So we're 2% off. We're 2% more than Kitsap County, 10% more than Grace Harbor, 26% less than Jefferson, and Thurston County 1% more. But take into consideration, Thurston, Jefferson, and Grace Harbor are their 2022 rates. They did not have 2023 published yet.
Oh, if we ever get those scales, we'll be competitive enough within 2%.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and that they have a series of increases set up for the next, I think, 3 or 4 years. It'll be 3% minimums. But I agree, to get scales in Belfair will be most beneficial. Our minimum fee is going up from $17.89. It's going to go up $1.61 to $19.50. Again, comparatively, it's 50% less than Kitsap County's minimum fee, 83% more than Grace Harbor, 95% more than Jefferson, and 8% more than Thurston County. Now, the next 4 line items we have are by the bag. Like we have one bag or can of trash and up to 4 cans or bags of trash. It goes up per the can. So right now we're $5.97. We're going to go up 54 cents to $6.51 for 1 can or bag, 32-gallon can of trash. 2 will be $12.98, 3 is $14.96, and 4 would be $16.86. And that is, I mean, considerably less than Kitsap County by minimum of 39% and a maximum of 54% less.
There's a problem here. Is this don't jive with what it's like when you actually go up there? I'm telling you it's not, but I think it's because they still do by weight. When you deliver stuff into Kitsap County, even though they have this number, they weigh the vehicle going in, weigh the vehicle going out, because that's
right.
Nothing like what reality.
Right, and see this advertised, their rates may be published. I'm sorry, I didn't look into it close enough. These 1 can bags will probably be for their outer stations. Grace Harbor doesn't do it. They just do it by weight. They don't have a 1 can bag or anything like that. And neither does Jefferson County. Well, and neither does Thurston County. Did not have anything published as such. They do for their outer stations. But I just listed here what we have at our Shelton because it's representative across the board. Tires with rims went up to, 54 cents. This is another odd area. And that's our special handling fee plus weight. And the same for Kitsap County, their published rates, $13 tire with rim plus weight. Same for Grace Harbor, $4.65. Jefferson County, $792. Thurston County is everything's done off a ton or minimum fee. So it's going to be $119 a ton or $18 minimum fee, with the exception of appliances with refrigerators and yard waste, and that'll be $45 a ton. So going down, we have tires without rims, $444, special handling fee plus weight, and it's going to go up to $484. So that's 40 cents increase. We are 63% lower than Kitsap County's advertised or published rate. We're 67% higher than Grays Harbor, 39% lower than Jefferson County, and like I said, with Thurston, they do it off tons of minimum fees. So minimum fee would be $18. Appliance with refrigerators, it's going up $1.08 from $11.90 to $12.98, 54% lower than Kitsap County, which is just, well, maybe not. I'm sorry, I've got that misrepresented. No, I don't. It's actually right. $28 is their special handling fee plus weight. Grays Harbor's is $34.86 plus weight. Jefferson County is just by the ton, $162.93. And there you go. Thurston County, $18 minimum fee, special handling fee plus weight. Recycle scrap metal. This is one that didn't really apply to anywhere but us and Thurston County. We charge $72.77 a ton. That's what we plan to charge. It's a $6 increase. And Thurston County is $119 a ton. Yard debris, we currently charge $79.94 a ton. We're looking at raising it to by $7.20 to $87.14. It's 33% less than Kitsap County, who's at $129.95 per yard or per ton. Did not apply to Grays Harbor. Jefferson County, we're considerably higher there. We're 82% higher. Theirs is currently $48 a ton. And Thurston County is currently $45 a ton. And I can tell you from both of those programs, Jefferson County, all of their yard waste gets ground up and converted into biosolids-based compost. They're on the same site. And Thurston County, just the volumes they deal with, I think is why theirs can be so much cheaper. Construction debris, we charge by the ton, $110.27. Plan on raising it to another $9.93 to $120.20. It's 20% more than what Kitsap County is at $100 a ton. It's 10% more than Grays Harbor, which at $109.50 per ton. Much cheaper than Jefferson County, who's at $162.93 per ton, and 1% less or more than 1% more than Thurston County, $119 a ton. Excuse me. This 55-gallon drum charge. I talked to Kevin about this. I asked him, "What is this?" It doesn't make any sense to me. And he said we've never used it, so he doesn't know why it's even on there. I guess if somebody comes in with a 55-gallon drum of stuff in it, not just an empty drum, it's $110.27 currently per ton. Plan to raise that by $9.93 to $120.20. Kitsap County, actually, let's see. The only place that had a similar was Jefferson County, which is just $12.45 for the container. And then cubic yard of waste, the last thing on our list, we currently charge $19.06 per cubic yard. We should plan on raising it $1.72 to $20.78, which is, excuse me, 57% cheaper than Kitsap County, who's at $48.88. did not apply to Grace Harbor or Jefferson or Thurston County. And so that is the spreadsheet. Is there any question?
Yeah, just a quick one. Have you heard from Waste Management as to how much they will be increasing?
I have not. And yeah, I have not. I've had talks with both our long haul and our blue box hauler, but they have not gotten back to me yet.
Okay. What about the Mason County Waste Management?
Mason County Garbage?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to hear back from them. They're kind of waiting on us. It's a double-edged sword for them. They're waiting on us so that they can notify the UTC of what theirs will be.
All right, kind of figured that was the case.
Yeah.
Richard, am I looking at this correctly when I see that we affirmed that this was the metric that we would use for calculating rates back in April of this year?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first part of that.
So I'm looking, we have a resolution in here from April of this year where it outlines what we would be using for our utility fees and rates. Am I correct in we affirmed that this is what we were going to use back in April?
Yes, I believe so. I'm looking at this resolution as I'm looking at the 2022-027, right? So yeah, 12th day of April. Yes, this is replacing the old resolution. The only thing that changed was the month we used the CPI for.
Okay.
And that was to help with the Mason County Garbage being able to alert the UTC of any rate changes in a timely manner before the first of the year.
Commissioners, any questions or discussion?
No, it's I did want to make clear, I'm looking at the Kitsap numbers and I've seen a lot of different ones than what we're talking about here. They've got different ones for different places. You know, for example, tires are 11. They just have different stuff, but it is what it is. It's all a cluster.
I believe that we're watching Snohomish County too. They're doing a recycle. And so we're kind of watching what they do to see if we can either emulate if it works or reject it if it doesn't.
And some of the Kitsap fees you kind of have to dig for sure.
For example, the first can at the other ones where they're doing it by the can is $13, then $5 per can thereafter. But at the Olympic View, they've got this, they've raised their high minimum. That's the interesting part. Tires for vehicles was 11, but that's for passenger. The commercial trucks is one that's 13, just so you know. Here's what it is. Let's go with it. I don't see where we're hurting anybody.
Okay, I'm also supportive of following the resolution.
Me too.
Thank you, commissioners. And great comparison work. Thank you, Richard.
Good.
Okay, next up are our water and sewer utility rate increases. Also following our CPI.
Okay, So I'll read this one. Per Mason County Resolutions 146-08, 05-09, and 06-09, all water and sewer rates fees at the Mason County owned and operated Russellwood, Beards Cove, and North Bay Case Inlet water and sewer systems will increase by 9.1% for the 2023 calendar year. The increase corresponds to the April 2022 Consumer Price Index, CPIU, for the Bremerton area for the 1-year period ending April 2022. This increase applies to all charges associated with the referenced water and sewer utility system, including monthly service rates, connection and permit fees, and other related charges, as well as covering the annual cost increase experienced by the county for the operation and maintenance of the above referenced water and sewer utilities. Notices will be mailed out to all Beards Cove, North Bay, Case Inlet, and Russellwood utility users because of these rate changes. And if you like, I could run through kind of what those changes are, like how much they went up and what the new rates are compared to the old rates, if you'd like.
Did you have any comparisons on that one?
No, I don't. Just from the year before, because I'm not sure just who to compare these to, really.
So was the last resolution that we did really back in 2009? Or 2010?
Yeah, it looks like in June 09 or something, maybe.
To establish the CPI.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm looking at Kitsap County, just pulling up the simple one for January 2nd, 2022. Sewer rates, single family residential, 88.27, multifamily residential, 70.35, commercial and industrial, 0.125 per cubic foot. Restaurant, 0.20. Navy Yard City, their charges are less. Their single residential through Kitsap is 75 per month. Multifamily is 59 per month.
I think it's really, really hard to compare wastewater utilities or water utilities, especially wastewater, though. We've got a lot of grinder pumps. We're responsible for them. Unlike a lot of jurisdictions where they're not. So, I mean, that's just one little difference. And our plants are on top of hills, so we're pumping uphill all the time. It's a lot more energy. We don't use gravity that much. And just the technologies they employ, I don't know. It's really, really hard to go apples to apples on wastewater. It's much easier on water, but they have their own technological differences as well.
Okay. Any other questions?
What is that?
Sounds like a little feedback.
Yeah. So again, I'm looking at Thurston pulling them up. No matter what, it is relevant. When we're talking about our costs, our increases are not set on what was needed as much as this is the set formula we use and we put it forward. And now we've been healthy in certain areas, and then at certain times I'm sure we do expenditures according to how much money we have in our pocketbook. So with that being said, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily not something that we should pay attention to and be competitive with. As I pull up Thurston counties, they're pretty close to the same. They have I can't say this word, to Moshen and Beverly Beach area. Theirs is broke down to 8238.
Hamasham.
Pardon me?
Hamasham.
Tamashan, okay.
Get some Irish in you.
Yeah, Boston Harbor's broke down differently, where they have a fixed monthly of 42, but a higher consumption rate with water because they're connected with water. So just, I don't know, we should be aware of that as we're putting these rates and increases on our citizens. I know I get plenty of calls over the people that are living in Lakeland Village. And what are they going to be up to now? I didn't have right in front of me. Is it 120?
Oh, I do have it here.
129?
129, 73.
Yeah.
So with that in comparison to Kitsap County at 82, at what point do we say that we need to do things differently?
So commissioners, along those lines, great question. We've been plugging along with the same resolution and the same CPI for some time. And to remind you, the work that we've got underway right now with our CPA is looking at the rates for all of our utilities. And so we've been providing meter reading information, comparisons to other water utilities and methods for their rates and charges for water, and providing a look ahead for future capital needs, basically all of the essentials that you need to analyze rates and our capital facilities charges. And Richard's also updated draft code language, and we're nearing the point where we can roll that out for you for a more comprehensive look.
I think with that being said, I would feel more comfortable just holding off until we get those numbers or get the information back from the CPA.
I agree.
Yeah, it's probably, I would say close to, we've got at least another couple months in getting that all vetted and reviewed with Mark and others before we bring forward, and then also some conversations with our community members. So at some point, it's probably going to be, by the time it's actually implemented and hearing, at least 6 months. So even though it sounds like we've got the information right around the corner, actually implementing a rate increase, I would imagine would be closer to 6 months or so.
I don't know. I just feel more comfortable with having the more solid information. I think it's great that you've reached out to have a CPA take a look at what we're doing and how we're doing it and making sure that we're doing it correctly. And so I would feel more comfortable just waiting.
So I guess on that point, just much like we had the conversation about park rate or park usage fees and environmental health fees and all these fees, I caution, with having no increase or an increase that isn't, I understand that these, that we have a lot of disparities here where you have Belfair, whose rate has been, frozen for a decade. You have North Bays, who's, continued to go up. And so I get that we're a little bit out of whack there. But at the same time, how much of your budget for your utilities has been predicated on these rate increases, because that has been the standard practice based on the resolutions that we have in place. And so what changes if we did move forward with a freeze, and I'm not saying that I'm supportive of that because I'm pretty clear on my concerns, but what would need to change in your budgets? So like North Bay, we're trying to fund the general sewer plant update out of North Bay's fund. Is that potentially impacted if we don't change the fee going or the rates going into 2023? So what are the implications, I guess, of a freeze while we're evaluating what the analysis is going to bring back? I just also think we're not always the quickest in terms of deliberating and implementing when there's rates involved. And so, if there is a prolonged period where we're having a lot of internal discussion about the results of the analysis, what's the cost associated with that to the utilities?
Yeah, commissioners, we can come back with an assumption of a 50%. Well, I guess it would be more than that. We'll come back absolutely with the implications of not implementing, because yes, our budget assumes this rate increase.
I myself, I'm looking this more on the terms of maybe a realignment, because we should look at where we're at and what we're doing and what we're actually bringing in. I think we should look at our system. So I'm not even saying a freeze. I'm just saying we look at it and see what it looks like, where it should be, and whether we can afford to be where it should be even.
Correct. If I may request or recommend a rate that follow the CPI at this time, and then revisit rates when we have the rate analysis complete.
I'm not prepared to increase them by 10% almost. I'm just not.
Yeah, understood.
I'm just one vote, and I understand that, but I can't justify it.
Commissioners and Loretta, I just wanted to say that if I can have a moment, I don't think that the rates were that great of an increase in the budget when I looked at them recently. I want to say they were around between 2% and 3% increase is what I remember, but I'll go back and double check that, because at the time the budget is put together, we don't have that information ready yet. And so I don't think that 9% increase is in the budget. I think it's more around 2 or 3%. And the only one that looked abnormally high to me was Russellwood. So anyway, that's all. Thank you.
I do believe we had this information.
But we will double check that, Jen.
Okay.
I think I'd feel more comfortable if you on a double check and then just bring it back to us.
Yep. We will do that.
So I'd like to recommend that we make this a priority to get done, hopefully before the end of the year. So that we can actually.
Yeah, wrap up budget.
Well, and go into 2023 with a clear picture of what our costs are, as well as what a rate increase would look like. Yeah, I'm just concerned about some of our smaller utilities. I mean, we have all of our utilities are fairly small, in a sense that there's not, in my mind, there's not a lot of flexibility that I see there. So definitely want to paint that clear picture for the board and for the public that utilizes these services, to ensure that they understand how we, why we have to charge what we charge.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, commissioners. We will do our best to bring that back on Monday. Or, well, sorry, not Monday, the following Monday.
Thank you.
That is
I have a quick question for the board. Just because I love Belfair. Are you all wanting to continue to keep the rates for Belfair at $96, or can we look at doing a potential increase there, or potentially changing? Well, actually, we don't have water consumption, so makes it a little more difficult. But what can I get a feeling from the board on Belfair?
So was Belfair included in the CPAs?
Absolutely.
It was.
Well, the CPAs, look, okay. I was misunderstanding the question. I was thinking CPI. Sorry.
Yeah,
I reacted in one initial early.
And I hate to put you on the spot, but definitely interested in your temperature for evaluating Belfair and determining whether we can break the 10-year plus moratorium on those rates that are there. I mean, well, I guess when I'm looking at them and I'm comparing them to North Bay and Russellwood, I'm definitely seeing a gap starting to create there.
I'll go ahead and jump in. I'm the one commissioner that never answered that question when it came up before. And even though it's my home, I gotta say, it's longer than that. When I first started, my goal was to keep that until the other surrounding areas got caught up. So I've always fought to try and keep that from happening. The other surrounding communities are still not there, but there is some need to look at this because we need to structure it differently than what we're doing. We're mostly commercial, and the way our commercial charges are set up, if we do a rate increase, it will affect commercial much greater than it would homeowners. For example, it's for one ERU, when you have one store that has 31 ERUs, because we're only giving them 155 gallons, that one charge could be exponentially larger compared to the one homeowner who could be using 500 gallons and we're not charging any different. So with that being said, I do think that we need to consider splitting our structure. And then while we're doing that, look at small, respectful increases and still hopes of getting the others to come closer to us and become caught up. I was just looking at Clallam County, and some of their areas were so far down that it's not even 3/4 size meters. 44.75 is their minimum billing for sewer rates, and so we're still not caught up with everything, but we've gone a long way. I think we need to look at it, and I'll take the one that takes the beating for that, because the truth is we've done well. This commission and the past commissions have done very well to hold it, and we need to consider a change there, but a respectful change. But we can't do it without separating. In my opinion, we can't do it without separating the business from residential, though. We just can't. It wouldn't be fair however we put it forward. For example, let's say we raised a residential up to $102 or something. That has an exponential effect on the businesses that have a 30-year ERU.
So yeah, I would agree. I think we need to include Belfair in any kind of rate study or decisions that we're making. And it's been frozen for so long. I'm sure folks in other utilities would have loved to have had the same opportunity with their rates. And I don't know how long you can justify it, in particular with the growth that we're seeing up there that we hadn't experienced for the majority of the past decade. So I think it's absolutely appropriate to look at that, and you don't have to do everything overnight, so you don't have to turn the dial all the way after a decade's worth of rate freezes. I think there could be a real opportunity here to do this in a way that's strategic, that's fair, that doesn't shut off the opportunities for growth up there, but at the same time recognizes that that the rates have been subsidized for a long time or held in check for a long time, and that we need to have a little bit more parity between all of our utilities. So absolutely open for that discussion, and I think that should be a top priority heading into 23.
Yep, I would agree.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot, but definitely.
Here you are, Mark. You've been planning on that one for 6 months. You and I have been talking about it hitting me. I think you knew I'd finally say something if I.
Well, I figure you all expected me to ask.
It's all good. This had to be said, and we have to look at it. I agree. So I'm only kidding when I'm teasing on that.
That's good.
We have to do our job.
All right, and then last, commissioners, I think Mike has an update on some construction activity.
Yeah, we just, we want to review where Mason Lake Road, we did get that paved. And so it is not striped, but we have put buttons down, so we're covered for center line there. The Clear Zone project is in motion. They're out on Camilchi Point. If you get a chance to go out there, they have a new piece of equipment that can reach 135 feet and cut the tops out of the trees itself and actually bring them back to the ground and lay them down nicely. So it's about $500,000 piece of equipment, and the crew wants one now, but we'll just observe what they're doing with the process. It's really interesting process. So, but that's where we're at.
Commissioners.
Talk to the PUD about surplusing stuff. we can't afford that, but the PUD surpluses all the time.
Right.
Boys and their toys.
Commissioners, and if you've got time for just one more quick update, Justin poked his head in and wanted to provide a quickie on utility work that happened last week.
Yeah, so there's three things. One, I don't know if you want the good or bad news first, but I hate to say that's all sunshine and rainbows, but unfortunately it's not. We had the PRV installation at Russellwood. Everything went great there. We actually had we've got a couple residents that actually have said that they've had the cleanest water that they've had yet. So I'm really happy with that. We've got a good flushing schedule going on after that. We've done the necessary testing. Following the installation, everything's good for as far as bacterial stuff there. Everything really went well. I was really happy with that. Contractor did a great job. Staffing did a great job. Unfortunately, we had a couple incidents last week. I would have briefed you on Monday, but I was trying to get everything going and paperwork wise and filed with ecology. But the Russellwood plant had a loss of power at our UV disinfection. And so what that means is we had treated water, but it was not disinfected. So it is still recognized as a spill. We cannot 100% guarantee that. We can only assume that like 10,000 gallons was not disinfected because we don't know when the power was lost. We had operations staff check the day before when they do their closing of the plants and everything was fine. And then when the operators come in the morning, they had noticed, and they did a great job. They checked and they noticed that the UV had no power, so the lamps were not working. The way that plant works is it goes in cycles. So sometimes if a power goes out, but it's not cycling through, then that means that we don't have to worry about something not getting disinfected. So it was checked in the morning. There was no flow going through, but when we talk to ecology, it has to be assumed that the worst had happened, that 10,000 gallons had went out to Pickering Passage without getting being disinfected. So called an electrician, got everything all fixed up. It was all hunky-dory within 4 hours. So we've done that, and then there was another incident that actually we recognized on Wednesday. It would have been at our Victor lift station over there by Victor. Operations staff does weekly lift station checks. And unfortunately, the pumps were left off on a Friday, and it was not recognized until the following Wednesday that the pumps were left off. It is unfortunate. We cannot say that anything went out to any waterways. Operations staff checked. We've done that. We cannot guesstimate. It's a guesstimation of how many gallons was spilled based on the amount of time. So I just wanted to keep you guys informed. That's where we're at. We've already done the necessary communication with ecology, Department of Health, and environmental health. It's something that we've talked about it with previous bills, and we're going to have to reiterate a lot of those SOPs, the standard operating procedures of what we're doing at lift station checks, and really making sure that we're doing the job of making sure that we're leaving the lift station as we left it. So I wanted to give you a heads up on that. You know, it's not a great situation, but it's a situation that we're in and we're handling it. So
Justin, have you done any testing around it? And have we had any major negative come back from the testing, if you have?
no, we haven't done any testing because we determined that the operations staff basically walked around where that water goes to when it spills over. And they're like, we cannot say where this, like, that it went to any type of waterway. They didn't see it going to any storm drains. Anything that really would be like indicative of saying that it went to some waterway. So we have not done any testing.
We haven't done any fecal testing out in the water?
No. And that's usually, sometimes we'll work with environmental health on that, what we'd like to see done. I don't know if I've heard anything from them or if the operations staff has either. But as far as what we have, it did not go to any waterways. So. Yep. Any questions? Sorry.
I just think that there would be testing, that somebody would have gone out there and tested the water. That's how we tell.
Yeah, well, we can definitely go out. I'm not sure we can do fecal testing. It's going to be, it'd be interesting. I just don't think that we have any, I don't know if we've had any past data around that area that we can compare it to. Because that's sometimes, go ahead.
Can you reach out to Swanson or to Dave? They typically will have numbers from samplings. Swanson is so good about keeping us up to date. So they might have numbers that you can check.
Okay. Yeah, no, I can definitely check in on
Well,
that.
and you just definitely know if it was way over. You know, there is a natural for the surrounding areas in comparison.
Okay. Yeah. No, I
Just for the
appreciate
safety of our residents, I'd like to see us do that kind of testing as standard practice after something like that occurs.
Yeah.
So we can warn them at the bare minimum.
Yeah. Okay.
We must have made it through what Richard was there for. He popped on during the conversation, and I think he was there to save us.
I guess I would add, commissioners, so this was a discharge that would have gone to the sound ultimately, right, Justin?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where
so
Victor
it's
is at.
an immediate closure as a precautionary measure, as part of our notification to both ecology, health department, shellfish. It's all part of the notification.
With the closure, though, isn't there testing? That's
No,
what
typically not. It's just as a precautionary measure that it's just closed and that's that. If you think about the volume, commissioners, if you think about what was discharged in Lakeland Village and the small amount of discharge versus the large body of water that it was going into, same thing in this case as well, but much larger pond that it was going into.
Yeah, appreciate the heads up.
And I think that is all we have, commissioners. Unless you have something for us.
Nothing for me.
Nope.
you got an email regarding the gentleman down in Tahuya.
Yes.
Make sure, please, that I'm included in your response. And
Yep, absolutely, Commissioner. We're following up as soon as we've got we made initial contact with Fish and Wildlife about a permit, and sounds like they've kind of changed their attitude a little bit. And so once we get some further information from the community about their plans, we will absolutely be coordinating with Fish and Wildlife.
I was gonna say, has the community already put through theirs?
They have not.
That's what I thought, so.
Yeah.
You just, I thought you made it extremely clear that we as a county are there to help and to do what's needed when they have theirs put together. That's what I thought you had made clear. It makes no sense for us to go out and be the first on that because it'll just fill back in like a bathtub. It will literally fill in with all the gravel that is put out there. It won't fix it. Has to be done in conjunction with each other.
In coordination.
I honestly felt you made that very clear. So if we're not there, we're not there. Thank you, Loretta.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing else, thank you for all the updates.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right, next up, we have Superior Court, Judge Goodell. Jim, I see we both might be on here for this. Hey, Judge. You're muted.
Okay.
There we
Can
go.
everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, well, good afternoon, commissioners. We have a request today for an increase in the Superior Court Commissioner from 37 hours per week to 40 hours per week. You'll probably recall not too long ago when we had our budget briefing, I raised the issue of the need of adding a Tuesday morning protection order docket under the new statute. Whether it's a new statute or a function of something else, I can't tell you. However, our protection order dockets have escalated significantly, probably over the last 4 or 5+ months. What we have right now are dockets that are on Monday mornings, Wednesday mornings, Thursdays, and Friday mornings, all mornings. We do not have a Tuesday morning docket, and the reason for that, which I didn't really describe in the request, is that we have 3 judges. The criminal judge does the show cause docket on Tuesday morning, unavailable. The juvenile judge does the juvenile offender docket on Tuesday morning, unavailable. The civil judge starts their civil trials on Tuesday mornings, unavailable. So we don't have a judge available. We didn't have the fill-in for that from the commissioner simply because it's not budgeted. What happens now is that we have what's called ex-parte dockets in the afternoons every day of the week. And on the ex-parte docket, when people bring in their request for a protection order, the court grants or doesn't grant, but if it does grant a temporary protection order, it under the statute, it has to set a hearing out within the next 2 weeks for a full order. We want to have the ability to send it out a full 2 weeks because there's oftentimes, and more typically than not, timing issues with serving people on the people or person on the other side, the respondent, with the paperwork. And that has to be served at least 1 week before the hearing. So they have 1 week in order to find the service. Typically, this goes off to the sheriff's office. It could be our sheriff, it could be Thurston, it could be Kitsap, depending where the respondent lives. And then they have to find the person, serve them, and then send back the report. And so that's why we use the full 2 weeks. So we do on the ex parte docket, we set out our hearings 2 weeks out. On the protection order docket for that day. So Mondays, 2 weeks out, Monday morning, we have a hearing on the full order. Tuesdays, however, we don't have that ability. So what happens is that we have to load Monday and Friday, and if Mondays and Fridays are just unmanageable, we will slip into Thursday as well. So when the judge on the Tuesday afternoon ex parte docket's looking at what we know about those hearings in 2 weeks, how busy they are, they will try to find a date. Well, what happens is it just really loads primarily the Monday docket, somewhat the Friday, and every once in a while the Thursday docket. But when we go over to the Thursday docket, there's a good likelihood that won't be timely service, and we're going to have to continue the hearing, which we don't want to do because it just loads another docket down the road because we still have to deal with it. So we have a commissioner who is at a 0.925 FTE at the present, which is 37 hours. We know that it takes 3 hours of time to prepare and to hear those dockets. And so it works out that if we were able to expand the commissioner's FTE to a full FTE, that would be 3 hours. It would solve our issue. And things aren't letting up. And if I was to guess on things, they won't. And so our request is to increase the court commissioner's contract at this time. And do you have any questions?
And I know this is a silly question, but you do have a courtroom available?
Yeah, that is true. But we can forecourt. Yes, we do have the ability. It's not just the courtroom, but it's the clerk. But we forecourt a lot. And when I say forecourt, 3 judges and the commissioner happening at the same time, that is more of a typical than an atypical situation.
I'm supportive.
I am as well. Commissioner Medlin, it's your
Yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thanks, Judge.
Okay, I appreciate your guys' time. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye, Jim. Bye, Jim.
Thank you.
Next up, we have commissioner discussion. Commissioners, do you have any additional items?
Just real quick, you'll notice my background. That's our courthouse. Isn't it stunning?
Beautiful,
And
yes.
Kelly and the facilities folks went out and they put green lights up, and that's for Operation Greenlight to show support for our veterans. So just wanted to do a quick shout out for Kelly and let our veterans know that we're here. We see you, we hear you, and we support you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks to Kelly and team for doing that. I think our administration building here is also have some green lights as well, but the historic courthouse just looks fantastic. And
Memorial Hall. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. I was just going to say, looking forward to doing the proclamation tomorrow ahead of Veterans Day on Friday, for sure.
Yeah, Memorial Hall is lit up also.
Hey, Kelly.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, for sure. I did want to jump into one other issue that's been kind of outstanding for a couple of weeks, and that's the support for Community Lifeline. Just wanted to see if Mark could provide some updates. I know he's had some conversations from the city and what they might be working on, but just can you get us up to speed, Mark?
I can. So I was actually, I need to find a quick email. Hold on. Melissa Casey over in public health has been awesome working with Community Lifeline to really go through the request and see exactly what they're requesting and why. I think that we all had similar concerns, that we want to make sure that Community Lifeline has the resources necessary to assist individuals experiencing homelessness within our community, especially during the cold months, which, boy, what a snap, right? We went from 80-degree weather to 40-something degree weather. So it's this significant change, I think, brings up a significant concern. And so they have the ability to support 35 people within their facility. They would love to get some additional funding, and I would call it gap funding because it's funding that will occur from November through, I believe, April. So I'm going off of a little bit of memory here because I don't have it. Commissioner Schutte can keep me honest on this one. The original request came in considerably higher than where we ended up. I think we ended up right around, I want to say $80,000, just in approximate numbers. I reached out to Jeff Knighton at the city of Shelton to say, hey, would the city be interested in helping us support Community Lifeline to provide beds? I think they would be able to actually do up to 35 people, and it would be 24/7. Whereas now I think that they have gaps. So they do overnight stays, but then during the day, they don't have the staff that they need in order to serve their customers throughout the day. This would add, I believe, 2 additional staff and provide them with the resources necessary to stay open 24/7 and increase up to 35 people, which is what they're, I think, currently allowed to do.
And I think I've been doing just about half of that overnight.
It's about 19 is what I remember.
Mhm.
So wanted to hear from, definitely wanted to talk with the board about, Commissioner Schuette's been involved in this discussion, but really wanted to update the other two commissioners on this request, where we're at. It's about half of what it originally was. Looks like the city may be willing to contribute up to, I think that Jeff was going to talk to his city council about $20,000. So I'm thinking that that would be around a $60,000 request. The county does have some funds that are left in, that have not been distributed out of ARPA funds. So we could potentially use ARPA funds as a resource for that. Any questions from Commissioner Trask or Commissioner Netherland?
No, I know that, just a comment. I know that Dave's been working with them also to make sure that their building can meet what the city requires. So I wanted to, send him a big thanks for bringing the city in, and but I think that this is what the funds are for. We can help our people that are affected. So I would support, as long as we make sure that they have the resources to make sure that they're accounting for the money and that they're providing the help that's needed. So if we can just make sure that we have an eye on that, that would be great.
I'm still kind of torn. It's one thing to provide when absolutely needed or necessary. It's another to set up a situation where we're creating just more ability to not stand on your own. I'm sorry, I just a little confused here and still trying to figure it out. I also would think that it's inside the city. It's a city issue, and I would expect that they would pay half, not just a small percentage. So that's where I'm at on it. I'm not a no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm done. I just have concerns, and I definitely think that is this a county issue that this happens to be in the city? Is it a city issue that the county's helping with, or maybe a little bit of both? And if it is, then that's half and half. That's not percentage-wise the same.
So I can provide you a quick little update on in terms of future funding for Community Lifeline and what does that look like. So I believe when the request came in originally, they were looking for some matching funds because they were applying for a HUD grant. That HUD grant actually doesn't start until July of 2023. And after talking with individuals from, I believe it was the Department of Commerce who actually administers the HUD money, they determined that they could actually use the cost of their facility as matching funds. And so they do have a plan for, I think it was April on. Is that right, Commissioner Schuette, or was it right around July of 23, I think is when?
Yeah, I think it lines up with the fiscal year.
Yeah, so federal fiscal year.
Correct.
Or state?
State, I think.
Okay, so July then of 2023 is when they would get that additional funding, Commissioner Netherland, to continue to operate through the use of those funds, and they would not need the matching support that they in which this was originally asked for or presented. So hopefully standing on their own feet. Do you have anything to add to that, Commissioner Schuette?
I think the funding part with the city, they're going to be relying, I think, on ARPA money as well, and I think they have some money earmarked above that to support some of the recommendations from the homeless task force. And so I think they're trying to sort of split the ways that they support Community Lifeline, and so I think this was a very last minute as Mark said, gap request based on just sort of the situation of when that funding gets turned on that is a little bit more sustainable. And so, I think that's kind of how they ended up at that $20,000 number. But certainly also agree with the accountability piece, and we need to ensure that there are 35 heads in beds every night for the duration of this agreement. And given that it is a facility that would be open to folks from across the county that might be in need, definitely see that being a role for us to play. But also think, the Community Lifeline is trying to do what it is we're asking them, and going out and figuring out their financial situation long term. And I've had some conversations with both staff and board members over there about just what is the plan going forward, because this is one time in the truest sense of the term one time. If it weren't for having the flexibility that ARPA provides, this is likely a conversation that wouldn't be happening, because we couldn't do it otherwise. And so it's a unique situation, both on the request side, I think, as well as on the funding availability side. And so just want to make sure that we're getting what we want in return for that funding, and that's having that 35 beds full, and the financial accountability piece. And so also just credit to Dave and Melissa too for working this whole thing with going back and forth with Athena, Community Lifeline, and just trying to figure it out. To use one of Commissioner Netherland's terms, this ended up being a request that wasn't everything that they wanted, but was exactly what they would need based on our staff's analysis and evaluation. So I'm a little bit more comfortable in that regard as well.
Yeah, I think providing the services and the accountability, I think, is high on the list of expectations.
This may be a good time to throw in something that I've been thinking about for quite a while. Here recently, the transit, as you know, we changed that provision to allow for not just no cost inside the county, because it's always been that, but no cost to leave the county as well. As we have different situations that occur in these facilities where they're dealing with people who are not able to be dealt with, and they need to be 86 for the safety of others. This is perhaps a time, if we're going to give more money, that we have that conversation of what that looks like. And if they're 86, they're given a pamphlet to show them that they can receive services in Thurston County, and the bus line that they could use to get to it. And actually have restrictions that when they are 86, they're 86 for a certain amount of time. And it both protects everybody, it holds them accountable, and gives them the opportunity to go where further services are without cutting them off. And it won't cost them anything. There will be no barrier, because there's no fee for them to get on the bus and go all the way to Thurston or Kitsap for those services. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. I know Commissioner Trask was looking at me when we were doing the other, wondering maybe a little bit of what the heck's he thinking. Now you know what I'm thinking.
My face is pretty. I do not have a good poker face. Let's put it that way.
Right. I want to help all these people, but at the same time, we need to have protections for everybody, including our community and the people that are in there. But I'm just throwing it out because it's an opportunity to let you know where I'm at on that, in case we see an opportunity that arises. But again, as I said, I won't stand in the way. I do believe, though, honestly, that this is a city issue and they should be covering half. I'd be more than happy to have, but I'm a little reluctant for less than that. But I'm not going to stand in its way.
Is that commissioners, is that something that you'd like Mark to relay back to the city, or?
I would.
Yeah, I think.
See if they can come up
all you can get is a no, right? I can't do it.
Well, as it can't or won't, that'd be the question. Because, you know, they have their citizens. If we're going to have this be a 24-hour day thing, there's going to be impact on the citizens that are here in the city of Shelton. They should have complete buy-in on this, not just, partial. They're going to, in my opinion, they're as responsible for this decision as anybody. So they need to step up and say they are or they're not. Because I know there's certain members on there that say they're not. Well, now's the time to say it. Let's get it out there in the public.
No, that's a good point. Very good.
Mark, so in the meantime, just because time is kind of the essence as we're looking at the weather situation and everything, commissioners, how do you feel about Mark working with Dave and Melissa to get an agreement at least drafted up for review with Community Lifeline, maybe ahead of our, not obviously tomorrow's meeting, but that we can maybe brief again on the 21st with a little bit more detail on both the funding and the accountability side?
Yeah, with the accountability side and the funding both, because your comments about full usage, that's just too logical. But unless we put it in there, you know, some type of stick with that, it isn't going to happen. So accountability on that. And if we wanted to have a conversation on what it's like to 86 and to clean that area up, that'd be good too. But I'm not contingent on that. But I am, my support would have a lot more, be a lot more forthcoming if we were full utilization and full partnership and doing this with the city, since it's their barbecue.
Yep, I agree.
Mark, maybe go ahead. Sorry, Commissioner.
Oh, no, I was just saying I agree.
Okay. Mark, we can maybe chat this afternoon and figure out some next steps.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Commissioners, any other commissioner discussion? Okay. We are painfully behind schedule today, and so we do have a budget workshop. If Jennifer, do you want to jump on? I don't, Commissioner Netherland, what's your?
I'm in trouble, but if we can run through it, let's please do, and
okay,
let's make it happen.
Okay, I'll share my screen then.
I apologize, Jen. We had I got some great discussion with the board, so I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that, and I'm sorry we went over.
Oh, that's okay. I think this should be pretty short, hopefully. So we had a couple of follow-up items. And first of all, I want to say, commissioners, I have done a revision from what is in your packets and what's online. So this that I'm presenting is the revised version of the budgets. So I forgot to add in the $1,080,000 levy shift back to roads. So it's kind of a major piece, and I didn't want to present something that didn't have that in it. So anyway, this one is revised. And starting off with the beginning fund balance. So I went back and evaluated now that we have October closed, and I would be comfortable, and I haven't talked to Mark about this yet, but I would be comfortable changing the beginning fund balance to 26 million for current expense. Looking at where we're at and what we have planned, I think that is a very realistic number. So Mark, if you're on and you want to pipe in, please do so.
Oh, I'm on. I'm supportive of that.
Okay.
I think it's more realistic.
Okay. And commissioners, if you're okay with that change, I will make that change in the budget.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm good with that. And
that's about what I.
Oh, go ahead.
And that's about what I thought as well. But your presentation on your ending fund was too good to even question, so I just shut up. And
well, it's such a moving target. It's really hard to pin down, but yeah, after looking at October, I think yeah, 26 million is probably a realistic estimate. So thank you.
Well, I think she was within like $10,000 last year. So how can you argue with that? Let the expert do their work.
Well,
Jennifer, just back on the levy shift conversation real quick. So, you know, I'm supportive of that and definitely see the benefit in dialing that back or down or however you want to put it. But, you know, the caveat to that that I didn't mention last week when we briefed on this was just sort of understanding what that would change on the public works side in terms of project delivery or sort of what the expectation would be that we would be getting back with that. I understand that there's, you know, consistently sort of this, you know, what we hear, you know, consistently from folks in the community is that we shouldn't be sweeping that money into the general fund and so on and so forth. But, you know, at the same time, we want to make sure that we're not, you know, that we're actually seeing a return on keeping that in the road fund, right? So that there's actually things happening with that there, because certainly it gets used on the general fund side, but I want to make sure that if we're, you know, that there's on the inverse of that, that we're actually seeing a benefit on the road fund side as well.
okay. And so I think that's a deeper discussion that we need to have with Public Works and
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I just threw it into their ending fund balance
Yeah.
for now.
I guess I wanted to flag that for everybody again, because I mentioned it a couple of briefings ago, but not last week when I said that I was supportive of eliminating the levy shift. And so just wanted to make sure that I was being clear with everybody.
I understood you when you said it that first time. You made it very clear, and I agreed.
Yep, me too.
Okay, so is that something, I mean, do you want to follow up with a briefing with them maybe on the 21st?
Yeah, that's good with me. If that, yeah, that works for everybody else.
Well, and we can, but at the same time, we're going to find it in the ending fund balance as projects come up during the year as well. It's not absolutely necessary. I think you're going to find some difference in those ending fund numbers as well. But I'm good with that briefing if you want.
Okay, great. So so I'll change the beginning fund balance to the 26 million. The levy shift is coming out of the treasurer's revenue. So that is 1,080,000 less in this presentation than in the one in your packets. So looking at the revenue here, we have $42,468,011 coming in 2023 budgeted. And with our beginning fund balance, we have $65,468,011. And of course, I'll increase that by the 3 million. And then on the expense side, the other change that I made was adding in the prosecutors contracted, they closed their contract, they completed their contract, the Teamsters, the new contract, I'm looking for it on my notes here. The total budget impact for that contract was only $6,635, and current expenses portion is $5,806. So that's shown in the expenditures, the salaries and benefits under the prosecutor and the child support enforcement wages here, salaries and wages. And then we'll go over to the special funds. The difference of $829 is in the crime victims fund. So so I just wanted to point that out. Okay, and then on the expense side of this presentation, the salaries and benefits are $31,462,668. The operating $14,959,012, and then the ending fund balance $19,046,331. And in this budget, we are using $3,953,669 from ending fund balance. And of course, in the last few years, our revenues have come in over that amount. So, so I'm not too worried about that. According to our fund balance policy, we can be over by 5,426,000, our expenses over our revenues, because that's how much 2021 was over in our revenues. So, any questions or comments so far?
Nope.
Okay, so going down on the sheriff department, I just wanted to point out, and I'm going to hide some of this. Oops. So we can see the policy level requests. So in the sheriff department, I updated the PLRs so that the vehicles are now 194,000 to reflect the presentation that I did this morning, the briefing that Chief Dracaby and I did on the vehicle cost increases. So I just wanted to point out that that was included in there. And then not included in the policy level requests, I just wanted to bring up the jail, the medical costs. I talked to Under Sheriff Adams, and he had mentioned that we could do that as an amendment to next year's budget. We don't have to decide right now, since the city is still negotiating their contract with Nisqually. The other change that is in this budget that was also in the one that was online is the medical increases. So in the general fund, the medical contributions are increasing by $257,100, and then in the special funds, $179,050. And that's all that I wanted to point out in the general fund before we move on to the special funds. Are there any questions or anything that you want to bring up before we move over, commissioners, to the special funds?
The 4 million shortfall, is that including 4 FTEs in the deputies?
No, this only includes things that are in the maintenance level budget, and
that's what I thought. So
no deputies have been moved over, and no FTEs. These are the open PLRs, include the FTEs that are being requested for auditor, HR, district court, coroner, and the sheriff's office.
so that'd be 5,600,000. Okay.
Yes.
Jen, just a quick question for you on the medical costs. Was that the total numbers that you were giving us?
No, that's the increase.
And what medical is that referring to?
That was the medical, it was for non-union, and then it was
I feel like those numbers were large because I'm thinking $52 is what we increased.
yeah, they are large. It was for non-union, and then there were a couple other unions that were spelled out in there as well.
Okay, thank you.
And I did everybody at the highest possible rate, which not everybody is on the highest possible rate, of course. So those numbers are going to be higher than the actuals.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so on the special funds, right now, we have the beginning fund balances at $48,218,034. Total revenues coming in 2023, $60,238,591, for total resources of $108,456,625. Total salaries and benefits, $14,198,086. Total operating of $94,258,539. And that includes $28,636,065 in ending fund balance estimates. And so you can see the budgets are balanced for the revenues and expenditures at $108,456,625. And then we've added in the general fund here. And so the total estimated budget at this time is $173,924,636 before adding in any unapproved PLRs at this time. So the open items that I had from last week on the special funds include on the sales and use tax fund, we had added in 20,000 for the Port of Grapeview. And there was a question about whether that was on the SEDS list. And I believe we got that answered this morning.
We did. Yep. So I spoke with Commissioner Farmer from the Port of Grapeview, actually last week, and let her know that that project is not on the actual SEDS list. And so we could not fund it through these 0.09 funds until she gets it on there. So there will be a request coming back to the Board of County Commissioners from the EDC to place this request on the SEDS list. And she's working with Jennifer Berea right now. So Commissioner Farmer is currently filling out the paperwork associated with the request and the project to make sure that it's clearly defined within the SEDS list. And then she's also going to be providing me with minutes associated with her commissioner meetings that would show where the Port of Grapeview commissioners authorized this request to come to the county.
Okay, and so right now, I had scheduled that to be on the November 22nd action agenda. So is that still okay, Mark?
I don't know that. So budgeting for it is one thing. Actually distributing it is another. So I think that if the board is, I believe that the board was comfortable with moving forward with the support, but I can assure you that we would not distribute unless it met the criteria associated for 0.09 funds. So we could budget, Jen, and then not distribute until that gets done.
Okay, and how about awarding it? So you're comfortable with awarding it?
Would not award it yet until the paperwork's done.
I thought you meant distribute it, but you're talking about even awarding it on the action agenda.
I don't feel like we should award it until I have all the documentation and it meets the criteria.
Okay.
Just to say,
Okay, I just wanted to verify the terminology.
Well,
and that's if the commissioners are comfortable with that.
Plus,
So
it must be out there for 2 weeks through to the other entities who could draw money off of 09 before we can award it.
And that letter did go out. And I think we gave them until the 16th to comment on that.
Diane?
Uh-oh.
No, I'm just saying that if the Port of Grapeview does submit their request, it has to go through the same comment period. I think that's what Commissioner Netherland was referring to.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and
Just by law, I don't want to make a mistake on that.
Right, yeah. Okay. We did add 62,000 into Russellwood as a transfer from REIT, as we discussed last week. So that's included down here in in Russellwood's revenue, and then as a transfer out of REIT 2. So there's the 62 and then the 62. We talked about the North Bay sewer plan with Public Works this morning. So that is not currently included in any, in North Bay's budget. Funds 429 and 480 are not included in this budget anymore. They are zeroed out, and then the transfer will happen in 2022. And there's a chance there could be a residual next year. We'll try to make that not happen, but I'll coordinate with Public Works, and anyway, we'll try and make that not happen in 23. And then the ER&R rates, those are now $2,339,088. We had lowered those rates to bring the fund balance and ER&R down. Now we're doing it over a 3-year period. So those rates, I'll share those so you can all see them. Okay, so here is the 2023 ER&R rate, taking the $433,000 distribution from over a 3-year period to bring that fund balance down to 3.5 million from 4.8 over a 3-year period. So we have roads ER&R rate at $2,233,569. So they're the vast majority of the ER&R rate. We have solid waste at 52,703. We have the total utilities at 52,816, and that's distributed over here. We have North Bay $29,049. We have Russellwood sewer and water, $4,489 each. We have Beards Cove, $3,697, and then Belfair sewer, $11,092. And those rates have been emailed to ER&R, Public Works. So any questions on any of that? That's all that I had to discuss, commissioners.
Nothing yet.
Okay.
Jen, just from a timeline perspective, no briefings next week. So would the request be then for us to make any final FTE kind of decisions on the 21st? I mean, is that kind of like where we're headed with this? Is this, I mean, so in terms of rolling everything up and all the other decisions so that we can make some FTE decisions, do you think we'll be in a position to do that on the 21st?
Yes, that is the final thing that needs to be decided. We have a couple of contracts that are, it looks like, near approval, and so I can add those in and have those numbers ready on the 21st, hopefully. But yeah, that is at this point where we're at, is deciding on any additional PLRs to add into the maintenance level budget.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions or information that you need from Jennifer and Abel in order to be able to make those decisions on the 21st?
I'm sure I will. I'm just making notes right now. So stay tuned.
Okay.
I've got a pretty good idea where we're at on it. I'm a little nervous as I'm looking at it. I'll admit it. But we'll just have to wait and knock it out, I guess, when the time comes.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, that's all that I have at this point. So, so yeah, just be thinking about any anything else that you want to add, or if you want to leave it the same. And we'll come back on the 21st.
Great. All righty.
Did you already send this breakdown to me, Jen?
I have a printed out copy for you, but it is included in your folder on the common drive.
Okay. And the printed out one, I'll pick it up tomorrow so I can go over it and take it with me as I'm studying it some more before it's over.
Okay, I can run it over to
Don't worry, I'll be here tomorrow.
Okay, great. Okay.
All righty.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, I think that's everything on our agenda today. If there is no other discussion, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
One last question. Did we all agree that we were gonna hold off temporarily on the sewer until we got more information and evaluated that? Because we were just sent an email for a press release that included the new rates for the sewer.
So as part of increasing our rates, we're required to do a presentation. I think we put something out in the paper.
But we haven't agreed, we haven't agreed to do those rates, and we may not be doing those rates if we have further conversation. I thought that's what the agreement was amongst the commission, was to come back and look at it a little bit further. We weren't ready for that today.
That's what I understood, and that Loretta would try and have information put together for the 21st briefing.
Okay, then we may want to hold off on the press release if it hasn't already been released, that it was sent to my email. Mackenzie sent it to us.
Oh, okay. I did not receive that, but already. Well, let me look into that, Commissioner. I'm not sure. I wish I had an answer for you, but yeah, we are not. I do understand very clearly that the commission does not want to move forward with the rates as presented today until we actually have some additional discussion. So
we probably don't want to send it out as a press release.
I would 100% agree.
Mr. Chair, I move we adjourn.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? We are adjourned. See everybody in the morning.
See you tomorrow.